Welcome to this video. Thanks for tuning in and sharing in this now moment with myself and with one another. And if you haven't seen these videos, welcome. Welcome back. If you have, my intention is unity and oneness. I'm just going to roll right into some language codes. So let's play. If you're interested in communication and just how I do it in this kind of quantum wordplay, then this is for you. Some of this will be, maybe I'll go back and type up later. And if it doesn't make sense, that's okay. It's just a frequency. So sometimes it's just meant to be felt. It doesn't necessarily have to make sense linearly. Let us jump right in. For as we jump in line, as we jump into this line up of higher consciousness co-creation, we are consciously co-creating together with our lines. We move into our lines of frequency. I'm seeing HOU, our timelines of frequency and co-collaboration. And as we collaborate in this way, we light up a color frequency board or a display. One may call it a marquee board. And we create a whole new gaming board platform. And we are sharing this message in this way to assist the collective, our own human existence pattern, in creating a new pattern. And when we converge and flow through the alphabet, through the word consistency, ooh, that's a play on words, we consistently add up our numbers. We add up our letters and create a geometric pattern display. But geometrical is actually a word that I have portmanteaued together. And port is a perfect add-on to this particular transmission, for we are essentially clicking together in a DreamWorks type of way, an analogy, one might say, a pattern of word recognition that is allowing us to write and rearrange or rewrite a new code of access points, or gives us a new way to access code, or it points to a different way to line up with a different form of communication that lines us up with a different form, that lines us up with a different textual format, one might say. It allows us to text and receive messages to one another beyond the text that we are used to. It allows us to move forward in this alphabet soup, in this bank, if you will, of value. It gives more value to how it is that we add to our already created word system or word bank. It puts more, one might say, movement and money in the bank. And this is a play on words. For when we monotonize something, that's a play on words, monetize, and I'm hearing monotony. I'm hearing break the bank, and then I'm seeing we're breaking the monotony of how the actual system is declared. We declare on this system, we declare that we are rewriting the system when we allow ourselves to access these different codes. For what is a quantum system? What is a computer system? What is it really when we think of intelligence? And so everything comes through sound. From one perspective, everything is a chord, a sound, a harmonic. Everything has a letter assigned to it by the time we come into this perception of our reality, for we come through a channel of energy that holds with it a quantum DNA archaeometry, play on words, archaeology, a key of our system that allows us to key into the system and create a different sense of, letters, geometry. Yet we do not wish to display this in a hierarchy or a hierarchical way. However, we do display this in a hierarchy, a hierarching, if you will. The arc, oh, that's such plain words. is a meaning in many different forms. So let us break this down and build it up for a moment. For our hierarchy, we may hire someone. We may go higher. We may move up the ladder. We may create a hierarchy to reach our king, our crown, our higher arc. That boat, the ka, the ba, that holds the body, our higher ship, if you will, our higher ability to create from this letter word play, our higher arcing, the electrical display of word geometry and number patterns in an alphabetic way and a phonetic way, an alphonetic, alphononic, alpha photonic. And so when we start to really dive into this particular way of expressing ourselves, language takes on a whole other meaning, so much more valued, because many of us are looking towards the future, and many of us are noticing that technology seems like it is taking over, and yet from another perspective, we have already overtaken this particular toy that is taken by us, that we have taken or that we are taking with us. And we remind you that there are many variations of existence. So therefore, the different bubbles of reality do not always hold the same timelines. They do not always hold the same geometry. They do not always hold the same reality. So when we communicate with these other realities, and we do it in this quantum way in this reality, it creates a uniform codex, a uniform way of codexing and informing information, a way of coding and creating information. It allows us to store information on our hard drive, and it makes it more difficult to break into, and at the same time, it makes it easier for us to break out of the ideology or idea of our reality. Whew. Pause. So as we letter up, if you will, as we allow ourselves to go up the ladder of letters and we move up into a more organized organizational format in a seemingly unorganized way, we format or fit or code or rewrite code or allow the code to fit more independently within a higher structure of hierarchies. We allow ourselves to key into the keyboard, if you will, the motherboard of technology in an organic way. And so as we allow ourselves to play in this way, we come back to a simplified form of unification and communication. And I'm seeing, isn't there like a unified code? It's like a Unicode. And so we then allow ourselves to create a new map, to create new maps with which we can access different points on the map that may have felt or been inaccessible before. And it had to do with how the information was stored. It had to do with the chemical exchange in the brain that gives us access to the stored information. For as we remap the system, as we allow ourselves to create this new configuration with language, the ergonomics, the geographics, the geometrics, the geometries begin to trace back to the ancient lineages of languageometry. Okay. This lettering format creates a node, if you will, and within this node is a plethora of information that is stored in a a place, if you will, that we can access at different times, at different conjunction points. For different conjunction points, and we could say some of these also involve astrological alignments or moments in our life. Certain things are triggered in order to access, I'm seeing like a pinball machine. And this creates the ability or lights up the remembrance that we have access to these particular nodes of information. So it is stored within our genetic computation. It is actually held within our skin suit and beyond. And it is held or encapsulated within a type of what some may refer to as a time capsule, but we would also say that it is beyond time and it is quite quantum. For you are a quantum computer in some regards. Some regard the quantum computer as this thing that is beyond our own ability to comprehend. And yet, ironically, the quantum computer is doing its best to comprehend us. And so it becomes this relationship of us co-creating together and recognizing that we are more quantum than a finite system could ever be. And so the more we come back to the power of our ability to reconstruct our own word geometry, our own energetic computational abilities, the more we can see into what the future of communication may hold. For when we communicate in this way or collaborate, we actually key into certain codes that have been kept held within a matrix of time, if you will. So I'm like seeing, I'm being called to share or draw what I'm seeing. This isn't exactly what I'm seeing, but I drew this the other day, but for a totally different meaning. So there's us, that's the brain. There's a little node in the brain. There's the node out there in the quantum field, and they both turn on or light up and they're connected together. But I'm also being shown, I'm very just tuned in right now to the diamond, but I'm being shown like it's like a pinball machine. And those of you who have seen the human body template, or let's say astrology, when you see the planetary conjunctions on a chart, it's basically each of those charts holds information. And so it's a code or information that's stored in a zip file. And there's a way to communicate with it that we all have access to, but we just have to learn how to communicate with it. And it's not even that, it's beyond that. And I'm going to go back into flow. So we think of learning as an example, that we must do something in order to gain something. We must read a book in order to obtain the knowledge that is encapsulated within that time capsule that is called a book. And the book holds chapters. The book holds words that are encased, the book holds letters that are encased within words that are then linearized into sentences and configurations that then hold the shape of a geometry of a particular codex of information that follows a pattern that then stimulates certain emotions, thought patterns, chemical responses, etc., that is then bound and held within a particular package that looks a certain way, feels a certain way. And this book may contain artwork or a particular style of font, a particular language. And this book also holds a particular pieces of information, or in a fictional example, a storyline, which is a pattern, which then is also connected to other nodes that activates memories, emotions, feelings, and so on and so forth. And this is an example of how our reality is working together as well. So when we turn the page of a book and we read a line, In the story, we are not only reading the letters, we are not only reading the order in which the letters are written, we are not only putting together or stringing together a line that then creates a sentence. A certain syntax and program are then compiled, and our brain, from one perspective, then analyzes it or computes it and spits out from one perspective the knowingness, or we then learn what that information holds. Yet this is a linear way of looking at it, for we actually have an ability to understand that information and those words without even opening the book. For we're going quantum here. The book was already written by a human, for one perspective, or the information that was channeled was then written into a book that held information. Therefore, we can go directly to the source once we have activated our ability to tune into the, they're showing me, I refer to it as the sound behind the sound. You begin to tune into the energy that the book holds within that form. And we do this with each other. We do this with all things. So many of us can actually access this information by our intention. We already know because we are all one. Therefore, any book that has ever been written, any story that has ever been told, any letters that have ever taken on any type of form or geometry are already available through the quantum field. And some might even compare this to what you call the Akash, the library or records that hold our files, memories, books, so on and so forth. And this is a very similar description as to what we are in this particular transmission insinuating or referring to or lining up with in regards to communication. And so we express this and present this in this particular format as an additional type of formatting that may assist those who are interested or those that are highly compatible with this type of letter and word geometry. For our brains access this information at different levels. Therefore, there are some that will access it through sound, some that will access it through the vision, and so on and so forth. And also this has to do with different conjunction points in our lives. Oftentimes it is when we are in between, let us say, the sleeping and waking state, that we receive our ahas or pieces of information that we recognize as an answer to a question or something that we had been seeking communication with in our psyche or in our reality, that we are then able to access because we are in a relaxed state of being. And in regards to this type of communication, it is not for everyone, yet it is something that everyone can play with and process. And this comes back to many more transmissions that we will share along the way. And those transmissions have to do with how it is that we each convey this information, or how it is conveyed to us. For as I share, Carrie, me, we, shares this presentation of we, shares this presentation of communication community, this communicative key, this particular trail, if you will, this particular, I'm seeing a hieroglyph and petroglyph all at the same time, or I'm not sure what the difference is, but, or hierarch keys. It allows us to, as I share this with you, I am sharing it in a certain style, a certain font, a certain way of interacting with this technology. And yet this is not necessarily the way that all will interact with this subset, with this source, with this way of interacting with source, if you will. And so we are being reminded that as we access our nodes, our nodal network, the more of us that access these pieces of information or these keys and then turn them on, get the ball rolling, if you will, it allows us to roll out the ink. It allows us to write this down. I'm hearing, write this down. Isn't that a George Strait song? It allows us to map, and we then co-create and map together, and we access different portals, different potentials, different potentials, and we branch out farther beyond the time capsules that we have encapsulated ourselves within the current limited technology or language versatility or lack thereof, better spoken, for the versatile. I'm seeing verses and tiles, like tiles in a fractal, and tiles that are held within a computer system. The English system, if you will, is a beautiful composition of harmonic inner exchanges with a particular dimensional vocabulary. Yet we have reached beyond this dimensional way of communication in a linear mapping system. And so we pick on the English language right now because we are choosing to speak through this medium of English language. It is a medium, if you will, and so is the person that is accessing this information, and so is the space in which this information is being expressed through. Air, internet is a medium. The writing is a medium, right? It's like artwork, a medium. What medium are you using? For as we sculpt these words, we pull from many different mediums, and we pull from the massive medium that has amassed itself over eons of time. And this is beyond this particular transmission to explain how this might work in a sub, I'm hearing in the subterrane, beyond the terrain, in the DNA train. There's so much more, but we are practicing this so that we can entrain the brain to read the script in a very non-script or nondescript sort of way. And this takes a bit of understanding the alphabet, but it also, more importantly, takes the trust of recognizing that language is more than just the English dictionary. It is more than just a particular lineage of linguistics. It is beyond a particular country, continent, or program than we have necessarily communicated with before. Yet we have communicated with it before because it is stored within our DNA. All is stored within our DNA, for we are a walking transcript of information, transcribing through our vocabulary what our environment and inner and outer is sharing with us experientially. For we have chosen this platform, if you will, to experience in a certain way. And it gives us a profound ability to display a harmonization, vocalization, visualization, all senses on way of communication. It is extremely beneficial to the greater expanse of the greater expanse. And this again is beyond this transmission, but we will just say that the more we vocalize in this way, the more we are able to transmit certain pieces of information that have been uncomputational before, play on words, incompatible with the computer that many had been outfitted with. Yet the outfits have been upgraded, so therefore the inner continuity must align with the outer continuity. So we begin, this is a play on words with the continents. we begin to line up with a continual or infinite pattern. And we begin to dissect that pattern, yet weave within it, in a finite way, that which we may realize is an infinite expression in finite form. So it's infinite, but it's being expressed in the finite form. And there will be many more transmissions to come in the future. And we invite those who feel into this and recognize this as compatible with their own technology. It may not come off sounding this way. It may sound or be different. Some are expressing this in hieroglyphs and patterns. Some are expressing it in language and sound, and some are expressing it through artwork, painting, colors. Some are expressing it through movement patterns, or what we might refer to as sign language. Many are interpreting it as light language, and this is all light codes, for everything is light poured into a frame, if you will, or a network of accessibility that gives us the experience of individualization within a oneness, or within a infinite, reality. And we will end on this note, allowing our nodes to connect with the nodes of all in the infinite realm of oneness. What we pour into the field allows those that are within the field to access them as well. And this allows us to better understand and interpret some of the things that will be coming our way in the future. And this is exciting, for we have made a quantum leap. And this quantum leap needs to be matched or met head on, meaning we need to keep our heads on in order to recognize and stabilize, as spoken in other messages, our environment in which we are, or our medium in which we are experiencing our reality. So as we upgrade our communication, we then access more of our upgrades. And this works in unison and allows us to reform or interpret or form certain interpretations around the information that we are receiving, that is then sending out signals and more codes to signify that to the universe that we are ready for more. And so this opens the door to more, and it opens the door to an entire new network that has been, let us say, hidden between the lines. Whew, that was a fun one. That's it for now. In love and light, namaste. And thanks for playing.